What's up, everybody? It's your boy Ryan, and this is the Thunder Channel on Nootropics. So I want to talk about PRL-853, research chemical, cholinergic properties, dopamine-centered properties, serotonin properties, or really anti-serotonin properties. What is it actually doing? Mechanism of action is not clear anywhere. There's just postulation about what scientists think that it's doing. But based on the effects that it has, I'm going to give my perspective on what it's doing, and then we'll compare that to the research. In the meantime, as you see on the screen, what the Nootropics God course turned into is the Nootropics God Doctrine, which is a book. It's a digital downloadable guide, just like Smarter, Better, Faster, and some of our other digital guides that are really epic. People just like to consume the content in that capacity, and I was having a problem with the editor, and the project never got finished. So I decided to just turn it into a book, a God Doctrine of really, like the subtitle says, how a 13-year veteran neurohacker uses nootropics. Really, really advanced stuff in that. No defined time when it's going to come out. I've got to really now put all that data into a book format. So it's going to take a bit. Just wanted to mention it. Broadcast is brought to you by the Cortex Stack. Powerful pre-made nootropic stack. Cortex Double Stack. Better deal. 2 bottles, $24 each. Nootropics Ground Zero video course you should get if you're new to nootropics. And Smarter, Better, Faster audio. Surgically using nootropics. Audiobook of me explaining how to do it. Along the book, Smarter, Better, Faster. Okay, so what is PRL-853 actually doing? What is it? What's the dose range? It's a research chemical that came on my radar probably about 3 years ago. I started fussing with it by itself, got some interesting experiences, started stacking it with a bunch of other things, got some really interesting experiences, figured out how to kind of dial it in for me. My clients, some of them use it, some of them don't. It really all depends on if we've got to crank up memory and motivation, and if the neurotransmission that is happening underlying PRL-853 is needed in those people. All around, it's a safe chemical as long as you're cycling it and not using it like a whole lot. A couple times a week is fine. Does have pronounced effects, and across the board motivation and working memory enhancement is what people report on PRL-853. You can dose it all the way from 2 to 10 milligrams, and you can actually figure out 2 milligrams. You just dose 5 or weigh 5 on the scale and split it in half. Well, then you got 2.5, maybe take a little bit of powder out of that. It's hard. You have to use either a wet toothpick or a nail clipper knife to actually get that much little powder in and then put it on the scale. But it's doable. If you go, so we're going to do some live research here. If you go and research some of the well-known reputable sources that discuss PRL-853, they're all pretty much saying the same thing. On Self-Hack, the mechanism of action section, they start off by saying it's unknown. According to some researchers, it may enhance the brain activity of acetylcholine. I believe this is true. In addition, some researchers suggest that PRL-853 may increase dopamine levels. I also believe this is true, but I'll explain why I think it's doing it or how. And it also may block serotonin production, which plays a role in anxiety, depression, and insomnia. That's what we got. If you look at Wikipedia, it's basically the same thing. Psychonaut, same thing. Like other websites that try to describe this chemical, it's really the same thing. So here's what I believe PRL-853 is actually doing. Because when I dose it, I get an enhanced motivation, sort of similar to aniracetam, which would indicate cholinergic properties, but also glutamate properties or AMPA receptor modulation properties specifically. However, it's slightly different, and it's more along the lines of like a bromantane L-DOPA combination, that synergy that just sort of gets you dopamine-centered, motivated, and excited for things. And just like that general lust for life, alongside the processing enhancements, because there's no doubt that the compound makes you process information better. Like writing and synthesizing this information into the Nootropics God Doctrine, I will be using PRL-853 and Noopapt and some other compounds. Definitely modafinil for some of the long stints of writing. So here's what I think it's actually doing. I believe on the cholinergic side, it is enhancing choline uptake, just like chloraracetam does. So that's really what I think is responsible for the processing enhancing benefits. I don't believe it's causing you to release more choline, more acetylcholine from any regions. That's really racetam's job, and that's primarily what they do. I think it's just making you synthesize acetylcholine better. and fostering uptake like coliracetam better. On the serotonin side, I believe it is inhibiting serotonin signaling, possibly synthesis, but not as its primary. It's not like directed to do that. That is happening as a byproduct of fostering the function of dopamine. And what I believe PRL-853 is doing on the dopamine side is inhibiting the reuptake of dopamine, which over time is not a good thing to do because we don't know how exactly it's doing that. If it's binding to the DAT, then it might downregulate the DAT or VMAT or other transporter molecules, and that long term is not good for the I guess consistent function of the neurotransmitter system. So it's really hard to say, but I believe it's a dopamine reuptake inhibitor. That's what I think is going on. So you've got enhanced cholinergic uptake and synthesis, dopamine uptake reinhibition, dopamine reuptake inhibition, and as a byproduct of that, you've got serotonin signaling or serotonin synthesis impairments, reductions, things of this nature. What does that do to a brain? Okay, well, it will make you highly interested in working, and it will make you effective at working, right? Very rarely do you have one singular compound that can achieve that. Making you interested in working, that's the dopamine side. Essentially blocking serotonin, a serotonin dominant brain at the time that you're taking it in the acute phase, which will keep you from getting a little too relaxed to want to work, and fostering the cholinergic side. So you've got all three of those things happening. That actually is a good recipe, and you can replicate that with other nootropics to get into a good, motivated, productive state. And that's what I think about it. In the 3 years that I've been fussing with it, 3.5, call it, I have stacked it with modafinil, I've stacked it with C-Lank, I've stacked it with dynamine, all the choline sources, DME, centrophenoxine, Alcar, tyrosine, energy nootropics, non-neurotransmitter modifying nootropics, things like ALA. And so far, I don't have a whole lot of information on this right now. My book is not in front of me. The best combination of it has been with low-dose C-Lank, so a spray of intranasal C-Lank, and medium-dose modafinil, like 50, 75 milligrams modafinil. That's me. I've got some other interesting stuff with clients, but maybe I'll share that at another time. But the primary thing is why don't we have answers to what exactly it's doing? This is one of those compounds that, in my world and dealing with people with PSSD and with hardcore, untreatable ADHD, and then people getting off of benzos. I used to work with people getting off of benzos, don't anymore much. I've got to map out and postulate on things that aren't known, right? And that's the step that in order to solve any of those problems, one has to be taking, because that conclusive or the confident determination is not happening in any of those sectors. PRL-853 is kind of the same thing. We've sort of got to look at the research, we've got to look at the anecdotals, we have to look at what people think it's doing, and then you have to look at your own experience with it and then draw a conclusion based on what you know about neuroscience and what you know about brain chemistry in general on what exactly it's doing. Dopamine reuptake inhibition, choline uptake facilitation, serotonin synthesis, serotonin signaling inhibition. That's what I think is happening with the mighty PRL-853. Thanks so much for watching. Thought it'd be useful for you guys. It's a great compound to stack with a lot of different things. Also great just to take it by itself for motivation and central processing at the same time. So it's really awesome, and I think it's cool. All research chemicals are cool, they're just cool. It's a little alluring because we don't know a whole lot about them. We know something about them. We know how they affect us, and as they become more popular and as people experiment more theories come out, and it's just cool to think about it all. But that's what I think PRL-853 is doing. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Remember, this broadcast has been brought to you by a couple of products. Number one, the Cortex Nootropic Stack. Look, if you haven't tried it, just go buy a bottle of Cortex, livecortex.com. If you have, you know the deal. It is a very, very powerful motivation, mental energy, verbal fluency nootropic stack. It's being used by gamers now because I started a channel called Cortex Labs Gaming right there, and I've been promoting it on that channel. It's all modern warfare, hardpoint content all day. but people recognize that it's good for gaming. Get the Cortex Stack, livecortex.com. Double Stack is a better deal because you're getting 2 bottles, 24 bucks each, and do that at livecortex.com. Nootropics Ground Zero if you're new. Smarter, Better, Faster, the audiobook is the best way to buy that product. Surgical Guide to Using Nootropics. That's also, if you're like 1 to 3 years in, you should get that course. Nootropics Masterclass if you're 5 years in and want to take it past that mark. Coming soon, Nootropics God Doctrine if you want to really be a 13, 14-year insane nootropics mad scientists. And all the rest of our good stuff at livecortex.com, including, oh, that's the Hulk picture, Nootropics t-shirts, fueled by Nootropics. They are sick. We've got medium and large, black color, really, really good quality material in the Nootropics t-shirts. Get recognized and rep Nootropics. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Talk to you next time.